Hello guys and welcome to our channel. This is Baby. In today's video we'll be talking about kind of a special build to me on Mechanist. It is a flamethrower dream for engineer. I started this game with main engineer, actually not main ranger, and I really loved the concept of playing flamethrower, but it was never really optimal, not in competitive obviously, because it was very difficult, especially in the start of the game, to land those hits and or even to get rewarded for them. And for PvE it was melee things that cannot tank enough and cannot heal enough, so I gave up on it. But Mechanist made it as usable as it could ever be. It's now you can solo champions or even legendaries. Those builds are just great because of this chat guy. This is not designed for damage, it's not a build about DPS in general, but it's really have some really high and decent DPS overall. But like I said, it's not designed for it. If you wanna go for the highest damage, you play condition with something like grenades or play power with bombs. This is usually what it is, or even do a full rotation of multiple kits using bombs and grenades at the same time on engineer. I don't know the Mechanist how it's gonna end up if you wanna do it for full DPS, but that's not our problem. Now let's talk about the trait first. I'm going with firearms, tools, and Mechanist. For firearms, I'm going with high caliber, no scope, and juggernaut. So we get in the miner, third of our hits to bleed, and if our enemy have bleed, we increase 10% critical chance, and bleed duration is increased, which not really relevant to us, but we also get 15% of critical chance on close range, about 300. Our flamethrower is 425, so we just need to stand a little bit closer, and that's no problem. And we also get on 300 radius again, triggering Fury for 6 seconds. Obviously it's not 6 seconds, actually 4, but I'm having Boon duration, so keep that in mind for every Boon you're gonna see. And Fury giving us 150 ferocity, so it's increased our damage overall. So we're getting, technically most of the fight we'll be having 25 increase for critical chance and then Fury. So it's 45%, and guess what, we have already 50 plus critical chance, but it can be reduced, so it's up to you, but now we are close to even 100. And Juggernaut obviously for the might and stability. We take in Juggernaut because this build is about the quality of life, and simply you can do a lot with an auto attack. You can do even more unique stuff if you're using more skills, but it's not gonna make this much difference to your DPS. You can have CC through the rifle itself, but like I said, it is simply this good. However, modified ammunition is probably one of the highest damaging traits in the game. It's 2% increased damage for every condition enemy, which means it can scale up to like 26, so it's insane. It is probably even the highest trait in the game. So if you take something like that, when people do huge amount of condition, like when you're fighting a boss in a meta event or something, your damage is gonna be spiking insanely. But other than that, since it is a solo build for quality of life and roam around in open world, so you don't get much value of a trait like that, and we want the stability and the might stacking anyway, so let's not think about that. And the last one is for condition. It's basically burning and increase the burning duration, and we're not playing condition here, so goes for those traits and probably for those that for pistol, and we don't use pistol. And this one is basically stack of might. We're already gonna be having 25 stacks of might anyway. Now I'm going for tools to reduce the cooldown on the mixed skills and have some modifiers for my damage. We gain from the minor vigor and lower the cooldown of the tool belt, which is the mixed skills right now, and gaining extra damage if we have vigor. However, it's only 3 seconds of vigor, so it's not really this great, since the lowest cooldown for a skill here is 12 seconds actually. So this is not gonna be something that you have quite often. However, the one we choose is static discharge for extra damage, and long fused powder pack, which basically every time you hit an enemy that's still above 50%, on a 10-second internal cooldown you will be triggering an explosion to a radius that hit everything inside. And we don't need the fire shield streamlined kit, because we already have this signet, so we don't need the movement speed, and the fire field itself or the might not really that useful, since we're gonna be having 25 stacks of might in no time anyway. Kinetic battery will give us really decent amount of quickness and super speed, every time we get to 5 charges, which means we press 5 skills from the mech. And we're gonna be having quite often. It just an add up to a boon is quite nice. And this trait is the best one for damage if you're running with a juggernaut system that basically use flamethrower and this trait. If you go with something like explosion, most of the traits doesn't work because you don't have this much explosion built anyway. If you go with alchemy, it's simply a defensive trait. If you go with invention, it's again mostly defensive trait. Now with Mechanist, the mech itself gain 50% of all your stat and then gain 100% of toughness and vitality, but sadly this skill work only if you're using mace, and we're not using mace with this build. We want the range. Basically we have a projectile based system here, so we can fight from far or from melee with using flamethrower. And the last one is a really good survivability skill to the mech itself. It will trigger when its health is under half, is under 50%. It will trigger regeneration, and the regeneration do higher healing to it anyway, and also gain reduction to incoming condition and incoming damage. It's on a 60-second cooldown, which you will feel the difference in keeping the mech alive. And they also reduce the cooldown for summoning the mech. It's about 50 seconds, but right now it's a build skill, so it's even 42 seconds because of this trait. So it's really nice, and it is a defiance bar breaking skill when you summon the mech, and we still have the signet. So the traits I'm going with is explosive knuckles, which will make us have 25 stacks of might. We gain might from this skill and we share it to the mech, and the mech give everyone around it might from this skill, and we still gain it, and that means the mech is also taking it, and it's gonna be given us and it boon. And it's a heavy hitting hit that's really decent, that can move the mech from far so fast to your enemy and do a melee attack. And it is the lowest cooldown one. If you're going even with a spark revolver one, as you see it's 17-second cooldown, it's a projectile thing, and your mech become completely ranged, which means it will not run to the enemy. But guess what? We want the skill that keep our signets in effect even when we use them. So as you see here, I still have the passive effect, and it's also increase the effectiveness of the signet, which give us this skill. It's from far, can hit some missiles, but also doing landing damage that even higher. If you use this skill with it, your mech will be standing in range always. It will not go to the target, which means most of the damage of this skill will be lost, and the CC factor. So there is way too many reasons to run this one. Do not run this one, my advice. And you can't keep your mech alive anyway by keeping it at distance. It will tank for you, so it will take hits no matter what. So simply choosing this to keep it even at range is not really effective. Now, however, you have a choice in the second option. I like to go with this one, even so it will reduce your damage by like the whole DPS by like 10% or something. It's a really a big difference between those two, because this one will grant your mech your 100% of your precision and ferocity, and this one will grant it concentration and healing power. So the difference is now we have extra stun break with condition removal and some serious access to boons, which is really nice, including alacrity. But the other one will give you an extra CC skill with some really big damage and will make the mech simply stronger. So the quality of life and extra survivability I get from this skill was more convincing to me, and now I have 2 stun breaks and condition removal in the build, but feel free to take the hard damage if you want. The last one, as we already said, we want to enhance the signet. The entire build is based on signets, so without a doubt this is the one to go. The first one is basically for condition, and the middle one is for support. It doesn't do anything, and we don't need to be support completely, so this is the one for us. Now for the gear itself, I tried it with many things. I tried it with Berserker and Diviner. Most of the fight, if not all of them, you're gonna be seeing as actually doing with a glassy version, very glassy, either Diviner or Berserker. Maybe had like 2 rings with toughness on them or something like that. I would advise against full glass because it doesn't really allow you for mistakes, so keep at least some toughness on your build. But however, I found the damage to be almost the same with Celestial. So why lose on toughness, vitality, healing and everything possible and sacrifice the Celestial? So I decided maybe I should go with Celestial in the end. But feel free to go with Diviner or Berserker. I would recommend Diviner especially. Now the rune itself, I would go with the rune of the pack because it is the highest stats. It will grant us some fury and other boons. However, my best recommendation to keep Fury 100% of the time is actually going with Rage. So I played with both actually, and both are doing very fine. This is the Rune of Rage. It will grant you ferocity and fury and 8 seconds of fury on a 10-second cooldown in combat, which with Boon duration means it's already 100%. And it will grant you even 5% of damage under the effect of fury, which means practically permanent. Why do you want fury this much? Because of this trait that will grant us even extra ferocity. So it's up to you. I played with both. You will not keep probably the fury 100% of the time this way. Maybe on Diviner. You can do it probably on Diviner, but not on Celestial. So use the pack, use the rage. It's up to you, whatever you find more suitable, basically. One will increase your ferocity, but will not give you the bar and precision, and the other one will. So it's up to you. And my sigils are generosity and accuracy. I wanted to use generosity because we don't have this much condition cleanse, especially if you go on with this trait. So like we said, this build is about the quality of life, is about being relaxed and simply hitting the mobs to give them the condition that they already gave you and hitting a lot of hits, so every time it come off cooldown you will trigger it. There is no chance it won't. So on a 6-second cooldown you will be losing a condition just shading them off all the time, which is quite nice. So that's what I went with. You can also change accuracy, because if you're going with this same setup, you will have huge amount of critical chance anyway. It's about 96 at this point, most of the time in fight. So you can change the accuracy to force or something like that. It's up to you. It's not really mandatory. The skills are Fall Signet and Flamethrower. I use the Healing Signet and Force Signet, Shift Signet, and Overclock Signet. Don't shy away from using your Signet whenever you need. You still keep the passive, so you're still healing, you're still doing extra damage, you still have the movement speed and everything. Only this one, be careful with it. If you're fighting a lot of normal mobs, there is no way you'll be killing the mech, so doing extra damage. If those skills are on cooldown, no problem. But if you're soloing a champion or a legendary or something like that, keep it so if your mech died, you simply summon it again. But keep in mind that the mech have quite, I don't know if it's probably a bug. It was in the beta and still persistent. If the mech dies or if you unsummon it, it will do an animation, and if you try to summon it before this animation go, the skill will go on cooldown and the mech will not be summoned. Let me show you. So right now I used it and the mech continues animation and go away and it will not come back. So you have to wait for it to finish the animation, as you see here, and once it does completely finish, this skill become on cooldown, like the entire mech skills disappear. You can use it and it will summon the mech. If this bars is still existing, it will not be summoned, so keep that in mind. Now there is also a bug similar to Ranger Bits. Sometimes the mech will stand and do completely nothing. It will not hit, it will not do anything, and once you press any skill it will start moving again, so that will be your way out of it. So pay attention to the mech until this bug is fixed. The mech just would stand stupidly like that, doesn't do anything and let you take all the damage. So those are probably the worst bugs I've encountered with the Mechanist. You can simply auto attack and press your mech skills and just enjoy the damage and the cleave of all those mobs and just the relaxation around when you do anything. Stability, you cannot be knocked back or anything, so it's just very comfortable playstyle with minimum effort as much as possible. Now for CC, you have Immobilize, you have Knockback, and you also have Knockback on Air Blast, and you have this Signet for Knockback, and your mech have this skill as also a Knockback. So it's like everything you have is a Knockback and an extra Immobilize to keep up your CC anyway. Another tech cruise engineer, you can keep the other weapon set, whatever they are, let's say another rifle or anything. With one of its sigils is actually Bloodlust, and once you stack the Bloodlust, go to the normal rifle and you will still keep the extra stat to even further increase your damage, which is really nice if you're sticking into the map for a long time. Now that's it for the video. Tell me what you think of the build. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.
You sure do like to share your opinions, talking big like somebody's listening. Nobody's listening. It's so fun and games until it doesn't. Toss me out, I'll hit the ignition. Now you listen. Hop up in the window, smell spoken, no name. So sorry, but we're not the same. No, we're not the same. Boo-hoo, poor you, please forgive me, cause I don't feel any pity. I'm fed up with lies, you wanted my demise. Now you're watching me rise, rise, rise. Up in the window, smaller and smaller you fade out. Up, up, up in the window, yeah. You cannot get my vibe, no there's no way. I'm flying high above all your gravity, trying to bring me down, but I'll never stay. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. You cannot get my vibe, no there's no way. You can say what you want, call me insane, trying to bring me down, but I'll never stay. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. Watch me levitate. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. Up in the window. Up in the window. Up in the window.
Watch me levitate, watch me levitate, watch me levitate, watch me levitate, levitate. Watch me levitate, watch me levitate, watch me levitate, watch me levitate.
Watch me levitate. You cannot kill my vibe, no there's no way. I'm flying high above all your gravity, trying to bring me down, but I'll never stay. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. You cannot kill my vibe, no there's no way. You can say what you want, call me insane, trying to bring me down, but I'll never stay. Hey, hey, watch me levitate. So you wanna go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay. Won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne. I'm coming for the throne. So you wanna be my enemy? You should've known I'd never kiss the rain. Ice runs in my veins, won't play it safe. I don't belong with your nobility. Who died and made you king of anything? You think that I'm insane? It's your mistake. Kingdoms rise and fall, I've come to take it all. I'll take it, I've come to take it. Kingdoms rise and fall, I've come to take it all. I'll take it all. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne. I'm coming for the throne. girls with their nails done now.